We were both coming home at the same time, our doors only 6 feet apart in the narrow hallway of the building. The light above us flickered like it always did, buzzing softly, casting tired shadows on peeling beige paint. She looked worn down, more than usual. Her shoulders were tense, her jaw set, eyes swollen like she'd been crying but refused to let anyone see it. She dropped her keys once. They clattered against the tile, loud in the quiet hall. When she bent to pick them up, I noticed the faint tremor in her hands. "You okay?" I asked, the same question I'd asked a dozen times over the past year. She gave the same answer she always did. "Yeah, just tired." But this time, something inside me snapped, not angrily, not dramatically. Just a quiet breaking point. I was tired of watching her disappear inch by inch. Tired of hearing muffled arguments through the walls at night. Tired of seeing her smile fade faster every week. "You deserve better," I said. The words surprised both of us. She straightened slowly, keys clenched in her fist. For a second, I thought she might argue. Or laugh it off. Or get defensive. Instead, she just stood there, staring at the floor. "I know," she said finally. Her voice was so small it barely carried. "Good night." She went inside and shut the door without another word. I stared at her door long after the lock clicked, my chest tight with regret. Maybe it wasn't my place. Maybe I'd overstepped. Maybe I'd just made things worse. I barely slept that night. The knock came early. Sharp. Certain. Unavoidable. I checked my phone, 7:12 a.m., and dragged myself to the door, still in yesterday's t-shirt. When I opened it, she was standing there with 2 heavy duffel bags and a canvas tote digging into her shoulder. For a moment, my mind couldn't connect the scene in front of me. Her eyes were red but steady. There was a strange calm about her, like someone who had already walked through fire and come out the other side burned but standing. "You said I deserve better," she said. I swallowed. "Yeah, so I chose it." I looked down at the bags, then back at her. "You left." She nodded once. I didn't even look back. Something in her voice told me how hard that had been. I stepped aside without thinking. "Come in." She hesitated just long enough to be sure the offer was real, then pulled the bags inside. When the door closed, the apartment felt different, smaller, fuller, charged with something unspoken. She sat at the kitchen table while I put water on for coffee. Her hands shook now that she'd stopped moving. "I don't have a plan," she admitted. "I just knew I couldn't stay another day." "That's okay," I said. "Plans can come later." She looked at me like she hadn't heard that in a long time. We talked slowly, carefully, like we were walking across thin ice. She told me about the early days, how charming he'd been, how attentive. How the criticism crept in so gradually she didn't notice until it had replaced affection entirely. "He never yelled in public," she said. "Only at home. Only where no one could hear." I listened. I didn't interrupt. I didn't offer solutions. I just let her speak. I kept thinking if I was more patient, more understanding, more quiet, it would get better, she said. But it never did. She pressed her lips together, blinking fast. I started believing I deserved it. "You didn't," I said immediately. Her eyes filled. I know that now. By noon, the sun had shifted across the living room floor. She'd showered, changed into borrowed clothes that were too big but comfortable. I cleared space in the closet for her bags. "This is temporary," she reminded me, almost nervously. "I know," I said. "Still, make yourself comfortable." She smiled faintly. The first call came in the afternoon. She stared at her phone like it was a loaded weapon. His name glowed on the screen. "You don't have to answer," I said. She inhaled deeply. "If I don't, he'll keep calling." She stepped onto the balcony, shutting the door behind her. I didn't want to listen, but fragments carried anyway. "Stop yelling." "No, I'm not coming back. I already told you why." There was a long pause. Then her voice hardened. "Do not come here." When she came back inside, her composure cracked. She sank onto the couch, face in her hands. "He said I'd regret this," she whispered. "That I won't survive without him." I sat beside her, close but not touching. "He's wrong." She nodded, but fear still clung to her like a shadow. That evening, she cooked dinner as if trying to prove something, to herself, maybe. We ate quietly, the normalcy feeling surreal. Later, as she settled onto the couch with a blanket, she looked around my apartment. "It's quiet here," she said. "Too quiet?" I asked. She shook her head. No. Peaceful. That night, I lay awake listening to the unfamiliar rhythm of another person breathing in my space. Every sound felt amplified, the creak of the floor, the hum of the fridge, the soft rustle as she shifted in her sleep. I thought about how close she'd come to staying. About how one sentence, said without intention, had changed the direction of her life. In the darkness, I understood something clearly for the first time. Leaving wasn't the hardest part. Believing you deserve more was. And tomorrow, when the fear returned, when doubt crept back in, when the past tried to reclaim her, that belief would be tested. But she wasn't alone anymore. It arrived in fragments, light creeping through the blinds, the hum of traffic outside, the soft clink of a mug touching the counter. I opened my eyes to the unfamiliar awareness that I wasn't alone anymore. Not in the lonely way, at least. She stood in the kitchen wearing one of my hoodies, sleeves too long, hair still damp from a rushed shower. For a moment, the sight felt strangely domestic, dangerously so. "Hope you don't mind," she said, gesturing to the coffee maker. I couldn't sleep. Neither could I admitted. We drank in silence, the kind that isn't awkward but thoughtful. The calm was real, but fragile. I could feel it, like glass stretched thin. Her phone buzzed on the table. She didn't look at it this time. By late morning, the messages came anyway. Long paragraphs. Short accusations. Missed calls stacked like warnings. She finally slid the phone toward me, face down. "I blocked him," she said. "But he knows where you live." The word "you" lingered between us. "We'll figure it out," I said, though my chest tightened. "You're safe here." She nodded, but fear flickered behind her eyes. The knock came just after noon. 3 heavy pounds against the door. Not sharp. Not polite. Authoritative. She froze, color draining from her face. "That's him." My pulse spiked. I stepped in front of her without thinking. "Stay back." I approached the door slowly, heart hammering, and looked through the peephole. It was him. Taller than I expected. Well-dressed. Calm in the way men get when they think they're in control. His jaw was tight, eyes cold, not angry, but certain. I didn't open the door. He knocked again, louder. "I know she's in there." "Leave," I said through the door. A pause. Then a scoff. "This doesn't concern you." "It does now." Behind me, I heard her inhale sharply. "She's my girlfriend," he continued. "She's upset. I'm here to take her home." "She left," I said. "That was her choice." Another pause. Then his voice dropped, almost pleasant. "You don't know what you're getting into." I didn't answer. After a moment, he exhaled sharply. "Tell her she has 1 hour to come talk to me." The footsteps retreated. The silence afterward rang in my ears. She collapsed onto the couch, knees pulled to her chest. "He always does that," she whispered. "Acts reasonable so people take his side." "Not this time," I said. She shook her head. "You don't understand. He doesn't let go." I sat beside her, careful but present. "Then we don't let him pull you back." Her eyes filled, not with fear this time, but relief. That afternoon, reality set in. We made a list, places she could stay, documents she needed, accounts she'd have to change. Each item grounded her, piece by piece, in the life she was choosing. At one point, she stopped mid-sentence. "Why are you doing this?" I looked up. "Because someone should have helped you sooner." She studied me, searching for something unsaid. "You don't owe me this." "I know." That answer seemed to satisfy her more than any promise would have. Night fell quickly. The city lights flickered on, casting shadows across the walls. She sat on the floor sorting through her bag when her phone buzzed again, from an unknown number. She didn't answer. Instead, she handed me the phone. "Read it." The message was short. "You think you've won. You haven't." I felt anger rise, sharp, protective. "This is harassment." She nodded. "I know. Tomorrow, we'll talk to someone," I said. "Police. A lawyer. Someone." She swallowed. "Okay." The trust in that word settled heavily on my chest. Later, as we sat watching a movie neither of us followed, she spoke quietly. "I was scared you'd change your mind." "About what?" "Letting me stay. Helping." I shook my head. "I won't." She leaned back against the couch, eyes closing. "I don't know how to do this alone." "You don't have to," I said. "Not right now." She turned toward me, really looking. "You said, yesterday." I hesitated. "I meant it." Her eyes softened. For a moment, the distance between us felt charged, but unspoken rules held it in place. She eventually drifted off to sleep, head resting against the cushion between us. I stayed awake, listening to her breathing, watching the rise and fall of her chest. I thought about how quickly lives could collide. How easily one sentence could turn into responsibility. I didn't regret it. The next morning, she woke with resolve. "I'm not going back," she said before coffee, before doubt could creep in. We spent the day making calls. Her sister arranged a flight. A friend offered a spare room. Options formed, real ones. In the afternoon, her phone rang again. She answered this time. "I'm done," she said calmly. "Do not contact me again." She hung up before he could respond. Her hands shook, but she didn't cry. That evening, as she packed her bags again, this time with purpose, she paused at the door. "I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," I said. She stepped closer, hesitated, then wrapped her arms around me. The hug was brief but grounding. Real. When she pulled back, her eyes were steady. "You didn't just give me a place to stay," she said. "You gave me the courage to leave." As the door closed behind her, the apartment felt empty again, but different. Changed. So was I. Because sometimes, helping someone choose better changes you too. And I knew, without question, that this wasn't goodbye. It was just the end of the part where fear had the loudest voice. And neither, I realized, was I.